Well, hello, rally friends, and welcome to my kitchen table. As you can tell, on a slightly different location this time. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of this land and acknowledging the elders, past, present, and emerging. We are in Australia, as you can tell. What a place. Oh, by the way, folks, if you are joining me on my channel, which I'm sure you are, don't forget, there's one very important thing you must do, even before we get into talking about rallying. Press that subscribe button. It's there. Might be there actually. Subscribe button. And once we've finished the video, if you want to leave a comment, great, but just make sure that there's no bad language there. I don't like bad language, folks. I don't mind a little bit of a debate, but I don't like bad language. And leave a little like for me as well. That would be fantastic. But the most important thing is that you press that subscribe button and you subscribe to my channel on YouTube. So, where are we, folks? Well, for the first time, I've come to South Australia. I know it's hard to believe, isn't it? I've been coming to Australia for the best part of 20 years. And I've never been, 30 years in fact, it's 32 years since I came here first. Never been to South Australia. And why have I come this time? Well, I'm out here to do some work for one of the real emerging classic rallies in the historic rally championship in Australia. It's the Rally of the Heartland. It's about 2 hours north, I suppose, of Adelaide. And as you can see, we're in the most incredible area, and would you believe the rally stage runs just behind where the cameraman is. You can't turn the camera around. The plan was to turn it around, but there are people in cars behind us, so we won't do that. But I'll show you some pictures. You can see them on my Facebook page, on my Instagram channels, on my Twitter channel as well. It is just the most incredible place to come rallying. It will be a classic rally, or it is a classic rally. 430 kilometres over 3 days. Proper challenge in Outback, Australia, effectively. I really can't wait. This is one of the cars that's actually won this event before. Can you see the name on the side of it? Yeah, it's my name. They've let me drive that. Videos to come. Keep an eye out for those videos in the coming weeks. You'll get a real flavour for what this event is all about here. It's a cracking event with some cracking people, beautiful roads, amazing challenges. And it just, for me, it's just Australia. Look at the vastness. We can look across here. It is just Australia. It's enormous. It's imposing. It's impressive. It's hot. It's everything. And look at these houses behind us. They're abandoned. Why is that? Well, you know, when the European settlers came out, and we started this by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. They've been here for tens of thousands of years. There is actually up in the hills here, there's some Aboriginal rock art dating back 40,000 years. But when the European settlers came out, they had to look around and thought, oof, good land for grazing sheep, good land for rearing cattle. And, they gave it a fair go, as Aussies do. They gave it a fair go, and they built these little communities. But what they very quickly discovered was that there is very, very little rainfall out here. And it's a tough place to live, it's a tough place to work. And a lot of these wonderful, beautiful old brick-built houses have been abandoned. And what's happened over the years? Well, the big stations have developed. You know what the station's called here? It's called Collinstown. Honestly, it is. It's called Collinstown, one of the biggest sheep stations in the world. Okay, it's not Collinstown, it's Collinsville, right? But Collinsville, Collinstown, it's the same thing. One of the biggest sheep stations in the world. It is absolutely vast. And getting back to the rally, 90% of the rally runs on roads that pass through Collinsville sheep station. Just incredible. Anyway, what we're going to talk about in terms of what the rally fans want to hear. Well, you've heard about the rally that's coming up, but news in the past week or so. Well, I guess we've got to talk about the calendar, the WRC calendar. The other thing I really want to talk about as well is the ERC, because I'm having to change my view on the European Championship. It hasn't in the slightest bit got me excited over the past decade. But I think this season could be very, very different. Let's start talking about the calendar. We've had an addition to the WRC calendar for next year, Latvia, and it's a good addition. The rally in Latvia has been running for many years. There's a tremendous rally community in Latvia, and as we've seen in places like Estonia, in other parts of Europe, you bring the rally to a new destination and you get a different vibe, don't you? You get a different feel to the rally. There's a different energy to the rally, and what it does is it reinvigorates or invigorates a real sense of what rallying's about. There's a sense of discovery, people finding our sport for the first time. And I think it's so important that we go to new places. But what's most important for the championship is that we have a balanced calendar. And the way I look at it just now, we got Finland, fast gravel, Latvia, even faster gravel, Estonia, fast gravel. Nah, it's not going to work. I fear for Estonia. I really do. I cannot imagine that we'll have those 3 fast gravel rallies on the WRC calendar next year. Rallying is all about diversity and variety. As I talked about here, the rally we've got here is completely different to anything you'll see, and that's the attraction of rallying. You follow circuit racing, and it's a bit of tarmac every week with a few bends and a long straight. That's what it is. And okay, they put different configurations in. With rallying, the great attraction of the sport is that it's different every week. You can come here and you can take in the vastness of Australia. We go to GB and the beautiful forests of North Wales. We go to the gravel of Greece, which again is very different, very hard, very abrasive, very braking. And it's about variety. If we're going to get a balance between gravel and tarmac rallies, there has to be variety within those different sections, if you like. And I don't like the sound of 3 fast gravel rallies. It's not good. I don't think it's going to happen, sadly. I think we're probably going to lose one of those 3 rallies, and it can't be Rally Finland, can it? The only rally that we can lose of those 3, potentially, sadly, is Estonia. Such a shame. Rallying is the biggest sport in Estonia. The Estonian organisers have done absolutely nothing wrong. Don't forget, the Estonian organisers in 2020, wasn't it? 2020, when COVID first hit, they were the ones that stepped up to the mark. They set the standard. They basically developed the protocols for rallying during the COVID era, and they put on a magnificent event. The Estonian fans came out in their tens, if not hundreds of thousands, created an incredible atmosphere, did nothing wrong. But we live in a commercial world, don't we? We live in a commercial world. And at the end of the day, no one can blame the promoter for pushing a checkbook calendar. You pay your money, you're in the championship, and if you've got a limited number of slots, that's a great position to be in. If you've got, more demand than you have supply, what happens? Well, prices go up, and it's the people who can afford to pay that get the product. And what's the product here? It's a round of the championship. Now, obviously, there has to be some consideration within that. If I win the lotto and I win a couple of $100 million on the lotto and decide I want to run a rally in Stoke-on-Trent, it's probably not going to happen. Even if I went to the promoter and said, there's £100 million, they ain't going to take it because they're not silly. They understand that it's about integrity, it's about standards. But at the end of the day, they're a commercial organisation. They have to make money. So those slots on the calendar are valuable assets. And I suspect that what's happened is perhaps Estonia wasn't quite able to find, maybe, it might be they run all 3. I'm not sure, I'm not hearing anything yet. But if Estonia is to lose out next year, you can imagine what's happened. Latvia's come with maybe a better government funding package, and they're in. And we'll get something very different in Latvia, and I'm very happy about that. Lots of talk about other rounds of the championship for next year as well. Will we go to 14 rounds? Probably. Will we go to Saudi Arabia? More than likely. A lot of questions still about Saudi Arabia. I think it's a fantastic move. I really do. One of the things we have to consider when bringing new rounds into the calendar and into the championship is we need organisations that are there to promote the sport. You need to be forward thinking. You need to be progressive. We need rallies that will push the sport within their communities, within their countries, within their regions, as well as worldwide. And we'll get that. You look at Dakar and how well Dakar's prospered these flies are doing my head in. Look at how well Dakar's prospered in Saudi Arabia. Listen, I know that, there's an awful lot of potential conflict and controversy. The political aspect is a very, very difficult one to overcome. But, if anyone wants to talk to me about my personal experiences in Saudi Arabia, what I've seen in Saudi Arabia, how I've seen how sport has actually encouraged the youth of Saudi Arabia, how things have developed in the 10 years since I went there first, I'm very happy to sit and talk to you about that, because for me, there's a positivity in encouraging young people, in showing young people what can be done. In Saudi Arabia, there is a very vibrant, a very artistic, a very creative, a very energetic youth. And on the other hand, what you've got is, a ruling generation who there are a lot of questions about. But at some point, the youth will be the ones who effectively make the decisions. And we have to encourage them. And I think taking sports like the golf, the Live Tour, like the Dakar, like the WRC to Saudi Arabia, we're showing support for the youth of Saudi Arabia. And for me, that can only be good. And I have seen personally the positives of that. So, I know that there are a lot of people who are uncomfortable with that. But, You've got to look at the progressive side of it. We can't condemn a country forever for the way they've been in the past. We can't. We absolutely can't. We have to at some point accept that the general mass of the population are looking to the future, they're looking forward, and we should support them. And I think we should all support Saudi Arabia in its bid to be part of the championship, because I can see an awful lot of good coming to the championship if we go to Saudi Arabia. Not confirmed yet, but it might happen. The other interesting one, obviously, is the States. We're going to head to the States at some point. That's so important for many reasons, not just for exposure in the States. It's very important politically as well. It's very important in terms of the stakeholders, particularly Ford and M Sport. And if we can find the right venue in the States, it'll be magnificent. I have absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. So let's wait and see. There will be more calendar announcements, I'm sure, coming in the, who knows, they've got a little bit of time to, listen, we waited until December, I think, for the calendar, didn't we, last year? We won't wait that long this year, I'm absolutely sure of it. I reckon we could have a 2024 calendar, by the middle of this year perhaps, so maybe another 2 or 3 months until we get confirmation of next year's calendar. I would hope that is the case anyway. Let's wait and see. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, the ERC. I've been a wee bit hard on it in the past, the European Rally Championship. It just hasn't. It's just not got me excited. The IRC got me excited. I absolutely loved the IRC. It was just the most magnificent spectacle. Why was that? Well, it was because we had great rallies. Okay, the ERC's got some great rallies as well. The IRC had great rallies, but there was a great level of competition in the IRC. We had proper emerging drivers who knew that if they won in the IRC, the boys in the WRC were watching them. And why were they watching them? Because they were beating drivers who were of a certain standard, and they were the up-and-coming drivers of their generation. This was 10 years ago. And it was exciting to watch. It was dramatic, and I really enjoyed it. We then had 10 years of the ERC where, no disrespect to the drivers who won that championship over the years, but the standard, the level just wasn't there. It just wasn't there to get me excited. This year, though, I'm going to have a rethink, because it's looking really interesting. The ERC this year reminds me a lot of the IRC in that, we've got some fantastic drivers to gauge yourself against. Now, I'm not saying Hayden Paddon and Mads Osberg are emerging drivers, because they're definitely not. But, the likes of our champion from Spain, whose name is Efran, he won last year, but who do we judge him against? If he wins this year and he beats Osberg, he beats Paddon, both winners in their own right in the WRC, you know exactly where that kid's level is at. And that's the draw, that's the attraction of the ERC this year. We've got Pontus Tiedemann there, a previous winner in WRC2. The level is there. If you win in the ERC this year, you will be making team bosses in the WRC sit up and take notice. And for me, that's really exciting. That's really interesting. That's what gets me looking for the ERC results on a rally weekend. I have to say, up to now, I really haven't been bothered about it. It's not done anything for me at all. We've now got some great coverage from the WRC promoter. We've got some great cars. We've got some great drivers. We've got a great level of competition that's, absolutely judgeable. Make no mistake, Hayden Paddon is still a driver capable, I suspect, of winning in the WRC. Mads Osberg is a driver capable of podium places in the WRC. If we can find these youngsters this year pushing them and competing and winning rallies against those two and the others, like Tiedemann and many others whose names have just escaped me just now, then we have a proper championship and we have a proper season and we have something to get really excited about. And I've got to say a big congratulations to my mate Ian Campbell, who is the manager of the ERC. A more accomplished rally man you will rarely come across. An international clerk of the course, an FIA steward, manager of the ERC. He's a man who knows, and a one-time driver himself in a Vauxhall Nova on the Mull Rally, where he ended up in a ditch after about 10 kilometres. But we'll forget about that, and we won't mention that, Ian. I'm very sorry. But he's a rally man, and he's put a lot of effort and energy into shaking up the ERC, and it's beginning to pay dividends. It's not just Ian, there's a whole team around Ian, supported ably by the WRC promoter. So, yeah, I'll make no apologies for not getting excited about the ERC in the past. It just didn't do anything for me. This year, though, I'm very much looking forward to following it and seeing how these youngsters get on against established stars of rallying, drivers who have been very much at the pinnacle of our sport. You beat them, there's something that you've got about you that people have to watch. So there we are, folks. That is more or less it for me from this wonderful setting on the Collinsville station in South Australia, one of the biggest sheep stations in the world. What are we going to have for dinner tonight? Maybe a little bit of lamb for dinner perhaps tonight, local lamb. So there we are, folks. Don't forget, subscribe, press the wee button that's up there, leave a comment, a little like would be nice as well, and if you're watching on Facebook, a share, because it's the only way to spread the word on Facebook. You have to share it, so if you can share it as well, that would be marvellous. Folks, once again, thank you very much for joining me at my slightly improvised kitchen table.